What major social problem did Israel face after their victory of the Six-Day War? All right. After the Israeli victory of the Six-Day War, the government responsibilities increased to a territory where Israel refugees escaped to. Those refugees were from the War of 1948. All right. So if you've been keeping up with Assessment 24 and Assessment 25 and probably the end of Assessment 23, well, we're kind of discussing these wars that kind of led into another war and that kind of led into another war, right? So here we have one of the first wars, 1948. Israel becomes a state. Israel is born. The Jewish peoplehood, they finally gained their own nation, right? And neighboring Arabics were not, too excited, or they try to deny the existence of an Israel state, right? Now, immediately Palestinians, they begin, causing, unwanted tensions towards the Israeli new state. They would commit, anti-Jewish, violent acts, and then on top of that, the Palestinians or the Arabics that would live in Israel, they kind of didn't want to live amongst, the Jewish peoplehood, right? So a lot of migration going on, a lot of tensions going on. Basically in 1948, right, when, you know, the Haganah, which is the Jewish or the Israeli military force, they kind of won this war right here. They were able to fight off Arabic forces. The Arabic forces were Syria, Egypt, Libya, Palestine, of course. All right, there's a handful of pan-Arab movements there. Egypt, and here we go. So they were able to fight off. Israel was able to fight off these neighboring Arabic states. Eventually, what happened was that the Arabs that were, let's say, living in Israel, they kind of migrated out. Okay, they migrated out to neighboring countries, right? Now let's fast forward into the future, right? To the Six-Day War, right? So the Six-Day War is also known as the 1967 War, right? So we're talking 15, 20 years into the future now, right? It's kind of like a new generation going on there, right? And during the Six-Day War, Israel was able to conquer over Golan Heights. They kind of reunited Jerusalem, the old city. And on top of that, they kind of moved in and took over the Sinai. So they conquered land. Great, right? Now, when you're conquering, you're also kind of inheriting the population, right? So now, remember during 1948, a lot of these Palestinians or Arabs that used to live in Israel that kind of migrated out of Israel. They went to neighboring countries, and now with the land expansion right here in the Six-Day War, now they are given the responsibility to govern people that kind of don't want to be governed by the Israelis, or kind of governed by the people that kind of kicked them out. So that also went into the mix with the victory of the Israelis during the Six-Day War. All right, so imagine now you have to govern people that kind of don't acknowledge you as a state, or you have to govern people that you kicked out of Israel for being, seen as anti-Jewish refugees and things like that. And so here we go. After the Israeli victory of the Six-Day War, the government responsibilities increased to a territory where Israel refugees escaped to. Those refugees were from the War of 1948.